Big Ten Huddle. We are presented and brought to you by FanDuel, and we have an excellent episode of the Big Ten Huddle ready for you as you have all three of us, me, JR, Zach, the Paris European guy, back with us once again, and Jeff here with us to give his instant reaction to the College Football Playoff rankings as well. Going to be a lot of fun breaking these down, talking about scenarios. Big Ten fans, we got what we wanted. Not everything we wanted, okay? This isn't, the best Christmas in the world, but it was Christmas. The Alabama Crimson Tide are not above Oregon, and the Texas Longhorns are not above USC. We're going to break it all down. But first, let's go to Zach Guggenheim, who is back from Paris. Zach, do you feel more European? Do you have a better, appreciation for bread? How you feeling?
Yeah, well, the bread's better, but this will tell you how well I travel. Every time I was asked a question and I wanted to say yes, I was just very tempted to say "si" and not "we." So maybe don't take me to Europe. Just
all they would have been talking in the coffee shops like, this guy keeps speaking Spanish in Paris.
Yeah, this guy's not smart. Thankfully, my wife is very understanding, and she's like, I made a covenant with this man, and he might be an idiot, but he's my idiot. So,
and he is the father of my children, so I must stay with him. The covenant and the children all together.
There we go.
Jeff, I know we ended on marriage advice on Sunday night. Since then, how have you been doing?
I mean, I've been doing awesome. Some of you might have heard it, but I'm all about the playoffs, man. My son's high school team were a 37-point underdog, and first play of the game, my son took a screen pass and took it 59 yards for a touchdown. And we just rode the momentum and upset the 1 seed 28-21. They have a pep rally tomorrow morning, JR. Actually, Thursday morning. And the local Atlanta Fox News 5 is going to be there live. I mean, it's a big deal.
Didn't you say your son got like offensive player of the week or something like that?
Well, he got offensive player of the week for our team. It wasn't like for
okay.
But still
that's cool.
Yeah, it is very cool. And those who listen to me frequently know he was injured. He broke his collarbone in June at a 7-on-7 camp. He wasn't even sure we were going to be able to play this year. Came back for the last 5 games of the year, but really hadn't made an impact. So he was really chomping at the bit to make an impact, and boy did he do it. But a great team effort. So thanks for listening.
So cool. No, it's awesome.
It is.
I got that text in Europe and I wanted to respond right away, but I was like, I don't know if I have the ability to, like, I didn't text anybody. I was on like other messaging apps, but like I was so thankful you sent that out, because it was really fun. So
yeah, the school is just fired up about it too. A lot of people are surprised that this game was like 2 hours away. So a lot of people didn't, some people didn't go. All the parents were there, of course, and but a lot of students, how do you get a ride for 2 hours, right? So the good thing is the second round game is more like 50 minutes drive. So it should really, people are pumped, and the playoffs are awesome. So that's what we're talking about here, right? But just high school playoffs for all you that have kids and everything, or your little local high school, support them and everything. It's just such a cool thing. And playing games that have meaning means a lot. And that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. All these teams battling to get in this 12-team field. It's a big deal for them. Even if they don't end up winning it all, just making a 12-team playoff field, you'll never forget that for the rest of your life.
That is true. Well, let's get into it here, fellas. Appreciate you sharing that, Jeff. And as always, if you'd like to hear Jeff on Thursday nights, you can hear him. His episodes premiere Thursday nights at 9 p.m. You can also hear him on podcasts on Friday morning as well. But we have some college football playoff rankings to get to here. Now, if you are with us on podcast, I'll go ahead and read them off from 25 down, starting at 25, Arizona State, Tulane, Houston, Missouri, Illinois coming in at number 21. Take that, you stupid AP poll. Number 20, Tennessee, followed by Virginia, Michigan, Texas, Georgia Tech. At number 15, we have USC. Definitely going to be talking about them later, because at 14, there is Vanderbilt, followed by Miami, Utah, BYU. At number 10, the Alabama Crimson Tide, followed by Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Oregon, Ole Miss. And number 5, Texas Tech, Georgia. That's fine. They deserved it. And number 3, Texas A&M, Indiana, and Ohio State. All right, Zach, we will start with you. You have been away. We'll get to the chat and their reactions, but let's start with Zach's reaction. Zach, what was your biggest reaction to the rankings here?
Okay, I know that Washington lost to Wisconsin, but how is Illinois 21 and Washington not ranked? That's my first question.
I would say Illinois has the win over USC, as I would guess is.
But Washington has the head-to-head over Illinois.
True.
So, and then I would then debate, Missouri, what have you done? Why are you there? Tennessee, what have you done? Houston, like I get it though. Like Washington lost to Wisconsin. That's probably not my biggest takeaway. I would love to know the logic of SC. Like, I'm glad SC's 15. I'm glad that they're above Texas. I still don't know if I understand them below Vandy. That feels a little odd to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then, maybe here's my biggest hot take. I get that Texas A&M's undefeated. Georgia is playing lights out right now, and I hate to say that. I'm not sure Georgia's not the number 3 team in the country yet.
That was an under talked about storyline that I thought they would have talked about more, but they ended up not talking about it. So we'll talk about it here a little bit later. But before we get to Jeff's, we're going to give priority here to the super chat from Dave Valinsky. Dave, appreciate the $5 super chat. He says for $5, it goes to show that James Madison is going to need help. Yes, that is true, and I don't know. Were you guys surprised that James Madison wasn't in there, because they're number 21 in the AP poll? I kind of feel like they're Liberty the past few years, where they just don't really have, they haven't really played anybody. I still think they deserve credit for the record they have and stuff, but I mean, I think they're probably giving some priority here to Tulane, because Tulane did play Ole Miss. They did beat Northwestern, and we can joke and say Northwestern's not good all we want. Still a 5-5 football team in the Big Ten. It's not like they're 0-10 or something like that. Mm-hmm. And so I would assume the win over a Power 5 team there would hold some weight. Jeff, do you have any thoughts on James Madison?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is good news. It shows, and this is what I believed, I don't think the committee gives a rat's ass what the AP pollsters do. I really don't. So they're using their own set of metrics and everything. So, and I'm focused on Big Ten teams, so I'm definitely not analyzing, the best of the group of 5, JR. So I can't really comment, is Tulane more deserving than James Madison, really? But I like the fact, because if anything we rail about the most, it's how the AP poll is so flawed, and it feeds the SEC talking points about why they're still better than the Big Ten, and they've got all these top 25 games. So just the fact, I'm excited that Illinois is in there. It gives a lot of Big Ten. It gives Ohio State now a top 25 team they beat, right? And other teams as well. And that's a kind of a pretty big deal. That's my quick thoughts on that.
Yeah.
Zach, any thoughts?
Well, and I think you're rewarding, honestly, good scheduling, which I think we want more of as well. Like they played it's Northwestern, but Northwestern's 5-5. They're 500. They beat Duke, who's I believe 500. They played at Ole Miss, and they got blown out, but they scheduled 3 Power 5 games in the non-conference. Like, good on them, knowing that it could backfire on them. So I give them a ton of credit for that. JMU, like, they have not scheduled anybody. I mean, they played Louisville and they got beat by 2 touchdowns. But then outside of that, their non-conference was not very good. And so I give them credit for that, especially because they're not in a power conference. I think that should be rewarded, especially for the group of 5 representative of the playoff. So yeah, I think that's kind of where I lean.
Yeah, I think it's interesting on the ESPN FPI strength of record. James Madison is one spot above Tulane, but also on this LSU is number 22. So, I mean, are we really going to follow the strength of record all that much when a team that's fired their head coach apparently should be up there? And also they have Texas A&M 1, Indiana 2, Ohio State 3 on the strength of record. So, they're not really going exactly by that, you can tell. So, all right, Jeff, your first reaction to the rankings here.
So again, I was pleased. I did a top 14. I didn't take it down to top 25, JR, and we talked about this the other night. You were worried about Oregon, right, where they'd be placed. So I know we're going to get to you, and you'll talk about being pleased with that. What a couple flip-flops I did have. I thought this is what wasn't how I was going to do it, but my prediction on the committee. I thought Bama would be 9 and Notre Dame would be right after them, but that was flip-flopped. So I think that's good for us, right? I mean, they're taking an SEC team and dropping them a little further than I thought. And then the second one is I thought Vandy would be ranked 13 and then Miami, and those two were flip-flopped. So again, they ranked 2 teams in the SEC 1 slot lower than I thought, and I'm pleased with that, right? And as Big Ten fans, we should probably be pretty pleased with that. Now, cause for worry, how are we going to get 4 Big Ten teams in? If Oregon loses, despite being 7, if they lose to USC, what win are they going to be able to hang their hat on? And they're really going to have to get lucky with some other teams losing. It's really going to be out of their hands, kind of, JR and Zach, I think. So that's a worry. I don't know if the Big Ten's positioned that well for 4 wins, unless Michigan pulls the upset over Ohio State. And
don't say that,
like
Jeff.
Ohio State a little bit. Hey, you two are the ones saying you're choosing Michigan until Ohio State beats them. So you're predicting that. I already know.
That's fair.
But that would be the path to 4. Really is the best bet is Michigan upsetting Ohio State.
Dave with the super chat says for $5, appreciate it. Dave says, I don't know what format I was on earlier, but it wasn't YouTube. It was just a huge close-up of JR's face. JR is Big Brother. Well, I don't know if my face would have been the best one to have the close-up on, but you're welcome, Dave. I did do that the other day on YouTube. I don't know how I did it either, and I just double tap the screen and it went back to normal. So I don't know what happened either, but that is my suggestion. So if you are currently zoomed in on my face, just double tap the screen, I guess. I don't know. So yeah, it's a line I love. It's the same thing. I don't know what's going on, guys. That's hilarious. All right. Well, let's go ahead and talk about all this. Of course, Philip coming in early. Appreciate you being here, Philip. Says USC should be above Vanderbilt. Illinois being at 21 is correct. I totally agree. And Philip, man, you and I are just in lockstep. Oregon should be above Ole Miss. So if they were to move Texas A&M down below Georgia, I think it would have been right to move Ole Miss down below Oregon, right? I don't have a problem that they didn't move Ole Miss down below Oregon. I still think Oregon should be above them, but I don't have a problem with it because they're remaining consistent. And for me, that's the biggest thing. I want the committee to be consistent. I don't think they're being totally consistent with Miami and Notre Dame personally, but that's fine. I'm not gonna rage on it too much or anything like that. But overall, I have to say the top 10 I'm pretty happy with. Still think Oregon should be above Ole Miss, but I think they got it right. I think BYU has a case to be over Alabama, but I'm not going to sit here and complain about that too much. Other than BYU and maybe Miami being in there instead of Notre Dame, or being above Notre Dame, maybe not being in there. I think I'm good with the top 10. How about you, Zach?
Yeah, I do want to go back to a point Jeff was making, though. If Oregon loses this week, there's not a lot of room for them to work back up, because and I think, to your point, Ole Miss, they're 10-1. Their next game is against Mississippi State. That's probably a win. So they're 11-1. Like, I don't see any more losses there. Like Oklahoma, Notre
the
Dame.
only hope is Washington, right?
That, like, Washington, in terms of
That they might be ranked, and so Oregon could possibly jump back up there.
possibly.
Yeah.
But then there's a question too. Like, if SC goes to Autzen and beats Oregon, what does the committee do with SC? Like, is it possible that SC beats Oregon and is actually both Big Ten teams are on the outside looking in at that point?
I think USC would be above BYU.
That would be my hope too.
Yeah, that would be my thought, because if you look at, well, maybe not, because BYU has one loss, Oregon moved up. Yeah, you make a really good point. If they stay true to what they've done, then it looks like Oklahoma, Notre Dame, Alabama move up. BYU might move up to 10, but the whole idea is, are you going to slot USC in there with the rest of the 2-loss Power 4 teams? Or are you going to give priority? I mean, they're going to be above Utah no matter what, if they beat Oregon. But would they give BYU priority for being a 1-loss team? But BYU doesn't really have any wins. I mean, USC would have better wins against Oregon and Iowa than any of the wins that BYU has. So
yeah, I think that they jump them. I think SC would jump BYU. I mean, even Oregon, they lose. If they lose in a tight one, they lost Indiana, and Indiana has a lot of respect from the committee, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think BYU's kind of might be one of the weakest players there at 11. I think I've always liked Utah all along. Actually, I've been impressed with them in a lot of ways, although they've had a clunker. But those are my thoughts. But it's still, I'm saying, I'm comfortable we're going to get 3. I'm not worried about 3 Big Ten teams. I'm very comfortable we're going to get 3, but it's the 4th one that's the problem.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk about Vanderbilt and USC there. So Vanderbilt at number 14, USC right behind them at number 15. So on ESPN FPI and many of the metrics, USC is the team that is slotted in above Vanderbilt. However, in pretty much all of the strength of schedule, strength of record metrics and stuff like that, Vanderbilt is above USC. So does this here, Vanderbilt being above USC, signal to you that it is more of a resume ranking rather than anything else? Or is it something to where you think maybe it's just Vanderbilt has been up there, so they're going to be above them? Jeff, what's your thoughts on USC Vanderbilt?
Yeah, I think it's more they've been up there. The good thing is USC, if they win against Oregon, it's a moot point. I mean, they leap Vanderbilt and others, right? Same thing for Oregon. We were just talking about whether Ole Miss deserves to be over Oregon. It's kind of moot, because if Oregon beats USC, Oregon's moving over Ole Miss. It's happening.
Mm-hmm.
I'm confident of that. Very confident. So I think the committee's almost like leaving. They have room to maneuver teams and reward them for winning, right? And that's a good thing and how it should be. So that's my thought on that, JR.
Yeah, I agree. Dorian's here. Hey, JR. Hey, Zach. Hey, Dorian. Appreciate you being here. Good to see you again there in the chat. Okay. Well, Texas and Michigan. Now, I'm on record saying I think Michigan is a better football team than Texas. Now, Michigan has a bunch of injuries right now. Jordan Marshall just went down last game, concerned about if he's going to be back against Maryland for sure. So I guess if you take injuries into account, I think Texas is probably the better team. But if you look at this team as a whole, once they start getting their guys back, offensive linemen and everything else, and they looked better on defense with Jimmy Roller back, I think this Michigan team is probably better than Texas. And I'm not sure I agree a Texas team that has 3 losses, a blowout to Georgia, and a loss to Florida deserves to be above Michigan. I know Michigan doesn't have a ton of big wins at this point. They did beat Nebraska on the road, which that's another one we probably need to talk about at some point if Nebraska deserves to be ranked. I think Nebraska probably deserves it more than Arizona State personally, but I'm not going to make the argument too much. Zach, what's your thoughts on Michigan and Texas?
I think the Oklahoma data point might be the deciding factor, because you think about it, Michigan went to Oklahoma and did not. I wouldn't say they were.
You can say it. They didn't look good.
They didn't look good. Yeah, I was gonna say they weren't competitive, and Texas throttled Oklahoma. Now I know Mateer was hurt, but like it was 23-6 in that game, and that's not to say that wins and losses shouldn't be accounted for, but I just think that is probably the one data point that the committee can look to and say, I'm not so sure that Texas, even with 3 losses, and the Florida loss is not good, right? It's a terrible loss, but I think Texas got blown out by a team that's ascending. Like Georgia finally looks like a team that I think is one of the 2 or 3 best teams in the country. And I think they've played like it the past few weeks. So like, I understand them getting blown out at Georgia. I understand them losing obviously to who the team is that we think is the best team in the country in Ohio State. And they lost by a touchdown in game 1, again, on the road. And I think the win against Oklahoma puts them over the top. And if they value Vanderbilt the way they do, I don't understand why, but the committee does. Those pair of wins are better than anything that Michigan has done at this point.
Yeah, I think you summed that well, Zach, because I was going to jump in, JR, and that Texas beat Oklahoma handily, neutral field, granted. Michigan went in, and if it was a close game, you could say, oh, they lost close, but really it wasn't. It wasn't even closer than the score indicated. And then Texas's other losses, first game on the road to Ohio State, and they only lost by 7, even though Ohio State clearly outplayed them in that game. So, do we want to punish teams too much when they have the guts to play in Ohio State? We want to reward that, if you will, or not punish them. You should get punished if you get blown out in those big games. If you play those big games and lose by not a lot, you shouldn't get overly punished. Otherwise, teams are like, I'm not going to play these games. Let's just schedule Liberty, So,
yeah, no, I think you make good points there. For me, on the Michigan Oklahoma thing, I don't think Michigan got beat super bad in that game. I mean, it was still a touchdown game in the fourth quarter. I'm not going to try and say that, Michigan was going to win the game or anything like that, but I definitely think Texas beat Oklahoma much worse than Oklahoma beat Michigan. And I also think that it has to be taken into account how injured John Mateer was in that game against Texas. I mean, and to be fair, I've been advocating for the same thing for Texas Tech. So I'm not, being just a complete homer here. I'm trying to be consistent with it all and say that when you have a quarterback who was basically your entire offense and he's hurt and can't hardly throw the ball, going up and you could argue that maybe they should have had their backup in, but we saw what their backup looked like the week before, and that was not good. So it's definitely an interesting thing. Let's see. Dave here with a super chat. Oh, go ahead, Zach, really fast.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think one other thing that's holding Michigan back, their last 3 games at Michigan State, at home against Purdue, at Northwestern, they beat Michigan State by 11, they beat Purdue by 5, and beat Northwestern by 2. And the best
hold on
record,
a second.
The best record.
Okay.
The best record is 5-5 Northwestern. And I'm saying from a committee perspective, if you're going to try to find, reasons to rank Michigan ahead of other teams, that is not a compelling case.
Yep. But the good news for Michigan, your compelling case is beating Ohio State again at home. That's like having the wild card, being dealt the wild card all of a sudden on the last card. the last game of the year,
So we think that Michigan definitely gets in if they beat Ohio State.
I don't want to say
because-
definitely. Yeah, I don't want to say definitely, JR, but
Well, but I was gonna say because they're a lot of the talking heads are basically saying if Texas beats Texas A&M, they're not definitely but probably in. So I think we could assign the same thing for Michigan too, which is if Michigan beats Ohio State with only 2 losses, they would not definitely but probably be in the playoffs, right?
I wouldn't call Texas definitely, and I think Texas would have to
I said probably.
clearly
probably.
beat. Yeah. Like if they barely beat Texas A&M, I mean, there's it depends on what these other teams do, right? It's so hard to say. You got to use probablys and maybes.
There's also a world too. I mean, so we're probably not going to get into this too much, but there's injury questions with Ohio State. And so if Michigan plays Ohio State and they're down Carnell Tate or I think Jeremiah Smith's definitely playing in that game, but there's a lot of smoke with the status of both those receivers right now for that Michigan game. If Michigan somehow beats Ohio State without one or even both of those receivers playing, that does change the narrative. And so that's another thing we have to take into account.
Mm-hmm. There was a question, and we'll get to the question in the chat after Dave. Dave's super chat has been up here for a while. We haven't recognized it. So Dave's
like the man, like 3 super chats in one show. I think that's a record.
You are, Dave. You are definitely the man. We appreciate the super chats. $5 says, by the way, it was my birthday yesterday. Happy birthday, Dave. I am not going to sing to you. That would not be a birthday present. That would be a birthday curse. I wish for the Gophers to have an 8-4 season in Central Michigan. I believe that's what he's talking about, versus Western Michigan MAC championship game. I'll be honest, I have not kept up with the MAC well enough this season. I know Toledo was doing okay or doing well at one point, but I don't know if that's continued or not. But yes, I hope for your sake, Dave, you get everything that you wish for your birthday. Happy birthday, Dave, and we appreciate you being here.
We're not going to go into 3-part harmony?
No.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you and Jeff can if you want, but I will not be. So
that might be tough to do on a live stream.
Yeah. That's why we're not doing it. Yeah. Okay. James Wilson says, who is in the championship if Michigan and Oregon win out? So if Michigan and Oregon win out, it would be Oregon that gets in, because Oregon, even though Michigan has a head-to-head over Ohio State, Oregon would have the better conference opponent win percentage. Their win percentage would be like over 50%. I need to do this video. I've had the notes for it for a while. Maybe I'll do it tonight. And then the win percentage for Michigan's opponents in the Big Ten is something like 38%. If everything is chalk and everything stays the way it's supposed to. So if Oregon loses, I think USC still has a better strength of opponent win percentage than Michigan does. So even if Michigan beats Ohio State, it does not look like it's likely that they would make the Big Ten championship game. It would be either Oregon or USC most likely.
In Michigan, you can bring up a good point. I mean, all along, Michigan's schedule, even before the year, looked extremely weak, minus the fact they played Oklahoma out of conference. So I'm talking in conference schedule, because I give them huge kudos for playing Oklahoma. We want more of that. But really not a tough schedule, and it's working out that way, right? And with Indiana as good as they are, they're not playing Indiana, they're not playing Oregon, so that kind of and then not Penn State, that didn't work out, but still that the schedule, and didn't play USC, right? No, they did play USC, but still pretty easy schedule. So I think that's also a factor here in thinking, that's why they definitely need to beat Ohio State. And your point, Zach, maybe not having Jeremiah Smith, especially, that could really downgrade that somewhat, right? But I still think a good chance to win if they beat the Buckeyes, because the Buckeyes are the clear number one, right? It's not just the number one; they're clearly the number one by the committee right now.
Yep. Yeah. Kurt is exactly right. Michigan would need Oregon to win, and then they would need Oregon to lose to Washington. Thank you, Kurt, for putting that in there. That definitely needs to be be said there. Okay, guys, is there anything else in the top 25 here before, or do we have any Big Ten teams? Zach, you mentioned Washington. Do we have any Big Ten teams that maybe should have been in over a Missouri, Houston, Arizona State, Tulane, Washington is 7-3, Nebraska 7-3. Iowa was still ahead of Washington in the AP poll voting. At 6-4, they almost got their way into the AP poll. They were behind Illinois, but I mean, are there any Big Ten teams here that you think probably should have been maybe closely considered, or probably were closely considered to be in?
I want to look at Houston's schedule again.
I don't believe Houston has played hardly anybody.
Yeah, and so they have a win over Arizona State, which Arizona State's ranked based on the fact that they beat Texas Tech. Like
yes.
That's which I respect.
Texas Tech without their starting quarterback, yes.
But it's still, I mean,
yes, I agree.
I give them there's credit there, but also like Houston has a bad loss to West Virginia. They have a win over Arizona State, and they lost badly to Texas Tech. And they took Oregon State took them to overtime. So I'm like, why is Houston in there? Why is Missouri in there? I don't understand. Like Missouri's in there because they've lost to good teams. That's it. And so I just I think the problem though for teams like Washington, they lost to Wisconsin, which drives me nuts for the teams that, for the Big Ten, because it's like you get ranked, and then as soon as you get ranked and you get some goodwill, you lose to the worst team in the conference. And I think that's
with the second worst offense in college football.
Yeah.
Wisconsin has. I mean, it just.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we can make an appeal for Washington, but at the end of the day, you're not going to get the benefit of the doubt, even if you're the better team, because you did that. Yeah,
you have to win on the road. I mean, you can't lose all these games on the road. Not all of them. They didn't lose every game on the road, but that game against Wisconsin, you cannot lose that game and still be considered, unfortunately. So, yeah.
I don't have major issues. One thing that's interesting: SB Plus has Iowa, despite the fourth loss, 15th. I mean, Iowa's ahead of, and Penn State's 19th. I mean, SP Plus is a little different. If you play really close games and lose, but to pretty good teams, it doesn't totally penalize you as much as you probably should.
And it's opponent adjusted too.
Yeah. But I find it interesting. SP Plus, because we talked about this, the narrative of the AP top 25 poll. SP Plus has 9 Big Ten teams in the top 25, 9 SEC teams, which means if you were to look at top 25 schedules, we play equal schedules with the SEC, right? That tells you that. But we don't have that. We have the AP, and Peter Burns will just,
I love seeing Jeff upset about the SEC. It's making my night so far.
Well, I'm not as SEC biased, because I'm like a numbers guy, right? And that's why I do like SB Plus. Jay, I don't know where else you're going. One thing I'm pleased with, though, and this is going to change, but what I want most from the playoffs, I want Big Ten versus SEC matchups. I don't want to see Oregon playing Ohio State, after. So,
this is exactly where I was going next. I want to see the matchups. Here we go. Go ahead, Jeff.
Go ahead. Well, I was just saying. So I'm pleased. You have Notre Dame playing Oklahoma, and the winner of that would play Ohio State. And I'd love to see Oklahoma win, just to have that SEC Oklahoma versus Ohio State matchup. And then you've got Oregon match with Alabama there in the 7-10 game, and it has the potential. Now, I'm not going to root for Oregon to lose, but if they did, it would be to a Bama team. And then Bama would play Indiana. If Indiana beats Bama, all these SEC people still not believing in Indiana, and there's still some of them. If Indiana beats Bama, shut up, right? Case closed. Keep your mouth shut. You know what I'm saying? That would be such a wonderful thing.
Keep preaching, Jeff. Keep preaching. I love it.
We really need Ole Miss to drop to 7 And then forget Alabama. Ole Miss
Hmm.
needs to play Indiana so that Lane Kiffin can finally shut his trap.
Well, you know what, Zach? If Oregon beats USC, I said it earlier, they're going to
Yeah.
jump Ole Miss.
Yeah.
And Ole Miss can't do anything about it because they could thump Mississippi State by 40, and it's not going to get them anything.
Is that Ole Miss's only game left?
Yep.
Yes, they're 10-1. That's their only game. So,
and they're
that's
not going
a
to the
great
SEC.
point.
And they're not going to the SEC championship
game. Yeah, no, that's exactly what I was going to say. When I first saw this, I was thinking, okay, Oregon, if they beat USC, they need to jump Ole Miss, get to 6, so that way we can see Oregon versus Miami. Can you tell, like, who would complain more about the other team that has more financial investment into their program? I mean, this would be the financial investment bowl. I want to see dollars dancing like we see the Pop-Tarts dancing. This would be the best bowl out there. We could see Oregon versus Miami, and then Ole Miss versus Alabama. I wouldn't really love that, because it is an SEC on SEC matchup, but I'm not really sure what else you can do. Maybe Alabama beats Auburn, you move them up and get over Notre Dame, maybe something like that. Sorry, guys. That might be nice, but overall, I would much rather see Oregon versus Miami, and then the winner of that face Texas A&M, and then Indiana get a for sure SEC matchup in the second round there, because I am very confident that Indiana would beat either Alabama or Ole Miss. I'm very, very confident that would happen.
So the other thing that'd be cool about that Miami-Oregon game, of course, is Cristobal used to coach at Oregon too.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
The only problem is that Miami doesn't really control their own destiny. They're 11 in the projection only because they are the highest ranked ACC team, but they're locked out of the ACC championship game right now. Like, they need chaos the next 2 weeks. Otherwise, they're going to need some help from the committee, and I'm not sure they're going to be able to get it.
Yeah, so right now Miami has the third highest odds, I believe. Yeah, they have the third highest odds, just barely, to make to win the championship game of the ACC. Georgia Tech is plus 186, Virginia is plus 240, and then Miami is plus 290 on FanDuel. You have to think that's because it's not likely that Miami makes the championship game, but if Miami does, they would be most likely highly favored over Georgia Tech or Virginia, which actually, Georgia Tech, do they play anybody else other than Georgia on their schedule?
They play Pitt.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Pitt could win that one. That's a game that Pat Narduzzi cares about, so maybe they get that win. But
UVA is ahead of them, and they only have to play Virginia Tech. Who, by the way, James Franklin,
does he start coaching already?
No. I don't think so.
Well, they get hired and they coach the bowl game.
But you know what, Georgia Tech and Pittsburgh, that's not going to matter because Pitt only has one loss in the ACC too. Although Miami plays Pitt, so never mind.
Yeah. Maybe Franklin could come in and coach and mismanage the timeouts and cost himself the game.
Would he still have a big play sheet?
Because that is the thing with him. Great program builder. We all know that it's going to recruit and everything, but can he manage tight games appropriately to end up winning the games?
Yeah. Who knows?
It's going to be really hard for Miami to get, because even SMU has a head-to-head win. They would need to lose both their remaining games, Louisville and at Cal. And I'm like, maybe Louisville, but at Cal, they're not good. It's I don't see a pathway for Miami unless if there's chaos at the top.
Well, I mean, what'd you say? Pitt plays Georgia Tech. Pitt could beat Georgia Tech.
But then Pitt, and then they would beat
and then
Pitt.
If Miami beats Pitt, then Miami wins. So I think that's the game you have to watch first and foremost.
Well, they would still need one more loss, though, I think. Because SMU is ahead of them and UVA is ahead of them.
Okay.
And so you would need SMU to lose twice.
Oh, gosh, this ACC race is stupid.
Yeah.
I think the biggest wild card team in my view is Texas Tech. I mean, they've got some real NFL dudes, and I'm a big NFL dude guy, by the way. Like if you got the number one draft pick type material at certain spots, like in their defensive line. And I haven't watched a lot of them, right? Because I'm watching all Big Ten games, but I know, I mean, they're just crushing some people.
Mm-hmm.
They had that one loss. They'll beat, if they end up 5, they'll beat the 12 easily, right? And then that'd be a pretty good matchup, Georgia, Texas Tech, frankly, if that happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you're right, Zach. If Miami beats Pitt, but Pitt beats Georgia Tech, then SMU would still be up there, and actually Duke would still have the tiebreaker over Miami somehow. Oh, gosh, Duke is ruining everything because Duke only plays Wake Forest left.
But just think of that: if one of those teams,
in North Carolina, sorry, North Carolina too.
If one of those teams, any of those, you name them, Georgia Tech, Virginia, ends up winning the ACC, they're slotted into that 11 spot, right? Because the group of 5 will be the 12. Whoever's get the 5th and the 6th seed, I mean, cakewalk, right? That's like Penn State last year, you know? Mm-hmm. I mean, and that's why the drumbeat's going to happen. If we get a real crummy group of 5 team, it's like, okay, I know we want to be inclusive, but can't we have some minimum standards?
Well, that's what you and I just talked about Sunday night, wasn't it, Jeff? That if you're a G5 team, you need to be ranked in the top 25 in order to make and I would extend this further. If you're a G5 team who wins your conference, even if it's not just one, if you're ranked in the top 25, I'd be okay with that G5 team making the playoffs.
Yeah.
So like you could get more than one G5 team in there if say 3 G5 teams are all champions in the, in their conference.
And I could see him tweaking it because they've shown a willingness to tweak. I mean, it's pretty cool that they changed that whole seeding thing from last year, right? After the very first year, they didn't wait. They made the change. So yeah, you could see something happen like that if we get like some really crummy teams in here where it's kind of unfair if certain teams just get like a kind of an easy first round game. That's the part that's bad, not the fact that that team got in. It's you want to have a playoff field that's fair, I guess, for all participants, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Zach, did you have any thoughts on this college football playoff bracket right here?
I mean, I think to your point, if Oregon beats USC, they could have a similar type cakewalk that Penn State had, because they're not going to get Miami. They'll get Virginia, or they'll get someone else. And I think to Jeff's point, they'll run through them. And if Texas A&M somehow stays the 3 seed, like they would run. Now, here's what I think will happen though: is I think Georgia's going to win the SEC, and I think Georgia will go to the 3.
Just swap them.
Yeah, and I think then you get Oregon, Georgia, and that would be a tremendous semifinal.
Banger.
Could you imagine the tiers of the SEC if Indiana beats Alabama, goes on to beat Georgia, and then faces Ohio State in the national championship? Could you imagine the tiers we would get? Oh, it would be glorious, guys.
Or what if the semifinals are Ohio State and like Texas Tech, and the other semifinal is Indiana, Oregon, because no SEC teams actually advance to the semis.
That would be fantastic as well.
Yeah,
I'm not complaining either way.
Although I think Georgia is starting to. I am very, very concerned about Georgia right now. Like I think they can win the national championship.
Maybe. I don't know. Texas is okay. It's not like Texas is some great team or anything like that. So
no, but Gunnar Stockton's playing
better and better as the year goes along.
Yeah, he's a dude.
Yeah,
better. Yeah, he's tough. He's the type of quarterback you'd like to have for any fan base, just like Haynes King for Georgia Tech. same deal. I mean,
last thing I'll say, and then we'll get to final thoughts here. Jeff, you brought up if Oklahoma beats Notre Dame. I'll be honest, I do not see a world where Oklahoma beats Notre Dame. I know Oklahoma beat Alabama, but that was a game where Alabama beat themselves. Listen, Oklahoma getting the credit and all that stuff, that's fine. You won the game, but that Oklahoma offense is awful. It's atrocious. It's not good. And the defense was opportunistic. Yes, they got some turnovers and stuff like that, but I do not see a Marcus Freeman coached football team allowing Oklahoma to do that to them. Marcus Freeman is 10 times the coach that Kalen DeBoer is right now. I don't know if he is overall, but at least Kalen DeBoer at Alabama, he is 10 times the coach that Kalen DeBoer is. And I don't think that Marcus Freeman would allow his team to lose in the fashion that Alabama did to Oklahoma.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, Oklahoma, really impressive defense, but the offense is just not there to make any kind of run.
Yeah.
We saw it last year when Ohio State was that 8-9 game, everybody was convinced Tennessee was going to be a world beater, including me. I picked Tennessee to beat Ohio State in that game, so I'll wear the egg on that one. But it's going to be the same thing where Ohio State or whoever the 1 seed is, whether it's Ohio State or Indiana, they're going to have to face maybe one of the more dangerous teams in, I think, Notre Dame, who would advance. And that is not going to be a cakewalk game. That will be.
They beat them the past 3 years, Zach.
The Ohio State did, not Indiana.
Sorry, I was lost. Okay, gotcha. Sorry.
Well,
Indiana lost last year. Yeah, you're right.
I'm just saying Notre Dame, and they're another team that's getting better and better and better defensively, running game, CJ Carr.
Yeah, they've got some unicorns. I mean, Jeremiah Love. He's the type of guy, that's what I'm talking about. He's the type of guy, that difference maker. Just, it's hard to have those guys. Like Indiana's loaded with, and I'm an Indiana grad, loaded with really good talent. Mendoza, genuine first-round pick, but none of those other guys, bunch of really good players, but none of them are unicorns. Eliza Sherrod, the defensive end, Kamara, Fisher, they're all really good players, but they're not the elite of the elite, which in these big games can make the difference. A personal Big Jeff philosophy.
I do think, though, as long as Indiana gets the bye, it helps a lot because the biggest knock on them in the playoffs is the depth to be able to win 4 games. So getting the bye and playing a team who already plays a game, I mean, you would think that would help, but last year none of the teams who had the bye won. So, but you also had Boise State and Arizona State who had byes. So
yeah, Indiana, I think a matchup with Bama would be a great one for them. Mm-hmm. I think that's a great matchup for them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Bama can't run the ball. Indiana, good defensive line, can put pressure as a shutdown guy in Pons, even though he's smaller, which is a concern of mine when they play Ohio State. He's just his pure size, but just I like the IU Bama matchup. I really hope that sticks at least, right?
Yeah, me too. All right, guys. Any other thoughts before we get out of here?
No, overall pleased would be my thought. Overall pleased, but worried the Big Ten might not get 4 teams in this thing, and the SEC might get 5. They're definitely going to get 4, it looks like.
Yeah.
Zach, anything?
We need more SEC teams to lose.
Listen, do not count out Oklahoma to lose to Florida this weekend. That's all I'm going to say. We're going to do our week preview tomorrow night. Zach and we're going to record it and post it Thursday morning. But do not be surprised if Oklahoma loses to Florida. That's a little foreshadowing to my SEC loss of week to get to, but I'll go into it more tomorrow.
Oklahoma doesn't play Florida.
Who plays Florida? Tennessee. Tennessee plays Florida. Sorry. Oklahoma plays Missouri. You're right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Which Missouri might finally drop from the ranked if that happens. But
Missouri was not ranked last week in the college football playoffs. I think they were ranked in the AP poll. last week.
Gotcha.
It's hard to follow these things.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I do not be surprised if Oklahoma loses to Missouri. Missouri has a really, really good run game, and they have a better defense than, a better defense that's been able to keep them in games that, where other teams who score a lot of points. Like what Vanderbilt put up like 45 on Auburn. They only put up on 17 on Missouri, I think. So,
okay.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. Thank you, everybody, for watching, for being here. We appreciate it. We are going to get out of here. Like I said, Zach and I will record our Week 13 preview tomorrow, and tomorrow night, and then we'll post that Thursday morning, and then you can catch Jeff on Thursday night, premiere at 9 p.m., and then you can catch him on podcast on Friday morning as well. We appreciate everybody being here. Thanks. Have a good one. See you later.